Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I guess it's time to start. Yeah, welcome to this celebration, last part of Mom's life. And yeah, it's nice to see so many people here from far and near. And I guess we'll start with a song from the siblings. Yeah, I'm so glad that three of my siblings have been able to come from Canada, Henry, Anna, and John, with their partners. So it's nice to have them here. Yeah, I think now we'll go over to the slideshow. This is where Mom is 18-year-old, and that's the small one there, that's called the Naika, Blue Spider Mushroom. Get out of there, can they? This is around their wedding time. I don't know if it's just before or after, but around that time in Mexico. This is probably in the 80s. Mom in her garden, ready to go to church in 1982. I think this is one of the last pictures in the old house by the river. This is down by the river as well, this too. Mom and her favorite dog, Scotty. I think this is where she turned 80 at George's place in San Ignacio. This is where they built their house, and they're close to the store. He moved his Amniya Husnan. This is in Canada, where she helped with peas, doing the dishes. Was always special when Henry and Lorna came from Canada. I guess Henry helped out digging potatoes. Laundry time. This is when we went to the doctor with her. We stayed in a hotel. Not a 5-star, but at least we're able to sleep here. Yeah, this was her beautiful garden. Mom and daughter. Teaching the grandson how to do gardening. Taking time for grandkid. Their two bodyguards. Mom in the garden again. She has a magnet on her fridge. She spent most of her time in the garden and the rest she wasted. Yeah, one of her favorite cats. She was still able to read without glasses from till quite an age. Knitting dough was not much lower if she stand up or sit down. Watering her garden. Yeah, she loved when we combed her. I don't remember which occasion this was. Probably the 60th. Huh? Oh yeah, Kornelsen reunion 2006. Yeah, this is where my parents spent time with Dad's cousins in Manitoba. The whole K clan. Again in the garden. This was their 60th anniversary. We celebrated the last part down by the river where they used to live. Dad was always happy to get something. This was their 50th anniversary. I think it was their 60th. Mom with her daughters. At Christmas time. Mom on Dad's lap. I can't see any numbers on that cake, so maybe they're too numerous already. At Christmas time again. Cutting weeds. Just married for 69 years. 86th birthday. Oh, there she got a new dress. This is where Dad turned 90. Uncle Abe shaking hand with Mom. Walter Penner shaking hand with Mom. Mom at the clinic. This is where she had pneumonia like 4 years ago. She always enjoyed the grandchildren. This we have seen quite often when Dad would push Mom, looked like a short little train. Mom loved farming. They pushed her anywhere. 4 generations. If the hearing is hard, they still had a way how to communicate. Both Tante Marie's. Yeah, Tante Nita says her youngest sister and her oldest sister. This is down by the river where parents used to live, that old shad. That was the end of Dad. Mom's 92nd birthday. Probably washing the teeth. She was always happy for visitors. Another year older. Happy for visitors again. And Uncle Jacob giving her probably some encouraging words. This is where she had a fracture on her arm. This is winter here in Belize. We went out camping. All her siblings, well, non je vrienden ook nog. Love to see grandchildren. Soup time. She inspects to see if it has any insects, I suppose. Eating time. Great grandchildren. More grandchildren and great grandchildren. Again, somebody came from Canada to visit. Cleaning beans was one of her hobbies. Party time. '94th birthday. Again, her sisters. Out in the sun where it's best. These were her partners in the Golden Age homes. '95. Yeah, we thought we would be happily celebrating the 95th birthday, but we ended up had to do it at the clinic. Jeremy Kornelsen reached from from Ontario. Still explaining stuff, even though the energy is not too much there. I guess this is the last picture that we had. So yeah, I guess okay, who else has something to share? Maybe we should start from the children here, siblings first.
I always enjoyed Mom's stories. She has had a happy childhood. She had good parents, she always said. They had all they needed to eat for the whole winter in the cellar, and she enjoyed working hard. One thing she often mentioned was using the cream separator. And it was a lot of work to wash it. She sometimes had chance to wash other people's dishes. She couldn't stand dirty dishes. Recently, she also kept asking if there are any dirty dishes in the sink, and we should go and wash them. No dirty dishes standing around at any time. She milked until the age of 60 when her cows died of rabies. I love to go with her when she got the cows from the far back of the pasture. She also had all her fences neatly chopped, and she really enjoyed gardening too. She had the big hybrid tomatoes, and she had to climb up on a barrel to pick them. And she says that, and she carried a lot of big pails of tomatoes onto the pickup. She liked to do all that, the 5-gallon pails. She enjoyed that the water was being pumped up from the river to water the garden. One day, a snake slithered over her legs while working in the garden, but that didn't make her jump. She anyway killed rats and bats and iguanas and scorpions and frogs, mostly fighting them with bare hands. She also enjoyed raising brawlers. Upstairs, they had the brawlers, and downstairs, they had the hens on the first floor. And they usually did good. Now she also did some work in the house too. When the boys brought home bathers, the boys that had bathed in the river, she enjoyed feeding them after that. They were very hungry, and she fed them her fresh buns first, and then the boys had said they were still hungry, so she gave them her old buns too. Before I married, we baked buns together. She kneaded the dough, and I shaped the buns. Later, when I got married, we both had to learn to bake buns alone. In later years, she and Dad made a chocolate cake from cake mix for every Sunday, which the grandchildren probably will remember, the chocolate cake at grandparents'. I loved also the kilti that she made. They were always my favorite, no matter how big the kilti pieces were, but I loved them that she made. In later years, she did more cleaning beans. While she was still able to walk, she usually stood all day to clean beans. She didn't know what getting tired meant. Several things that were very important to her was education and that children were taken good care of. She enjoyed her great-grandchildren and was also concerned about their well-being. But she always asked me about the bean fields. How are the beans growing? Do they get enough rain? On December 19, I took her to her bean field the last time. She really enjoyed that.
Dat zijn even helemaal een deel memories opgewakkeld en 27 jaar waar ik in de familie zie geweest en ik heb die jaren enjoyed en we hebben eenmaal een trip gemaakt met mama thuis naar Chatham naar de dokter in Bliss City en wherever ze alweer geweest is. En ja, dat zijn schöne jaren geweest. We hebben veel schöne memories van de mama.
Hello, my name is Anna, and I just want to talk a little bit about my mom. This first part I wrote in 2020 when my mom was sick and the doctor said we should say goodbye, and I wasn't able to be here. And then I wrote this. My mom couldn't be at her mom's funeral. I would have never guessed I wouldn't be on hers. Even though we are many miles apart, our saddened, broken hearts are with you in Belize. I feel fortunate that I had a mother like you, one of a kind. You were always there for me. When I was sick at night and knocked on your bedroom door, you instantly got up and tended to my needs. You sacrificed your precious sleep Even though you were short, it never kept you back from working hard, leaving us a good example. Thank you for making education an important part of my life. You always embraced me with a mother's love, never judged me, but showed compassion and left a great legacy behind. You outlived your 6 younger siblings. What a privilege you had. I will greatly miss you, especially when I come to Belize. I cannot imagine life without you. I love you, Mom. And Mama, you will be dearly missed. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. To those I love and those who loved me, when I am gone, release me, let me go. I have so many things to see and do. You must not tie yourself to me with tears. Be happy that we had so many years. God saw you getting tired, and a cure was not to be. So he put his arms around you and whispered, "Come to me." With tearful eyes, we watched you and saw you pass away. And although we love you dearly, we could not make you stay. A golden heart stopped beating, hard-working hands at rest. God broke our hearts to prove to us he only takes the very best. And this is what I wrote this week. My first family memories are from when we traveled from Canada to Belize. Since I had never lived in a tropical country before, my whole body broke out in a rash. So Mom kept me cool. Ek moes my nou daar onjaar en man verlang en eind dat het nie te heit weer. And she would always put on baking soda and water on my whole body. She was always there for me. She taught me how to read English before starting school. That was a must, she said. Since we had no electricity yet, we had to read by kerosene lamp. I have often thanked her for teaching me English at a young age, which I benefit from daily. When I came home from school, Mom was always there for me, except one day she was not home and I felt like a lost sheep. I first checked if Mom was in the house. If not, I knew I would find her in the barn. Once throughout my school years, she would come to visit at school, and once she came for our school Christmas program. That was very special to me. She was a stay-at-home mom. Having baths once or twice a week. When I was growing up, she scrubbed our arms and ears until they were squeaky clean, red, and hurting. Mom rejoiced when I told her I had decided to follow Jesus. She cared for our spiritual needs even though she didn't always express it. She dealt with depression all her life, even though she was never officially diagnosed with it. All her life, she was made fun of, even though she tried her best with the situation she was in. Nobody has ever walked in her shoes. Let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged. 2 years ago, when we had a family gathering, she never joined us outside in our family circle. She was inside listening to church messages. She said that was more important than anything else. She said we had to fix our eyes and thoughts on Jesus. She had a longing to be with Jesus, especially after she had a vision in October 2023 about Dad and a beautiful garden, which I believe was a taste of heaven. She wanted us to sing for her because it brought her closer to Jesus. After that, she said, "How can I make things right with people I have not treated right?" I told her if she was sorry, God forgives her and throws the sins in the deepest ocean and remembers them no more. She was at peace with that. She couldn't walk for some years, but she was determined to be independent, so she would crawl to places she would want to go. That way, she did not fall or break a bone. She was a fighter. Even though her body was small and frail, she was strong enough to squeeze and hold a visitor's hand for a long time. She appreciated company till the last day. She was clear enough in her mind to recognize people and their names. 2 days before her passing, Mom said, "In my mind, I am still young and farming." She said she just had a dream that she was milking a cow. When she moved her legs, she said, "I feel like I should still run. My legs are not used to holding still." The last day she asked if we could contact the doctor, so we did, and Dr. Claudia came. Mom was very alert and asked what the doctor said when we whispered in her room. She has always had very good hearing. The doctor tried to give her IV to make her more comfortable, but she could not find or poke her rolling veins. After that, Mom was more at peace that we had tried everything we could. We gave her our best care till the end. She especially appreciated what the Spanish maids did for her. They made her feel very special, loved, and cared for. The rest of the Golden Age staff thank you for what you did for her, and a special thanks to my family members who cared for her when I lived so far away. We prayed for her caregivers daily. Thank you.
In the life of Mary Kornelsen, mostly stories as told by Mary herself. In October of 1928, Bernard and Nita Duig welcomed their firstborn child, a beautiful girl. This daughter grew up in Morris, Manitoba, Canada. As a growing school-age girl, Mary must have wondered as adults discussed issues of the Great Depression and war, living through the dirty 30s in Canada. Crops were failing and most people weren't well-to-do, but Mary's family always had enough to eat. As Mennonites in a public school, Mary's parents paid the teacher to hold a separate class for them, a half hour of German, morning and evening, which included the catechism. At school, in summer, they took along watermelons and ate outside. Mary remembered getting a pretty doll with a red polka dot dress. When Mary's dad hired a Miss Reimer for a week, she sewed 3 new school dresses for Mary. Mary had a neat handwriting and loved art. Her teacher gave her and another girl in school a 55 colored palette to water paint in their coloring books. Their picture of a house and trees got awarded with 100%. Mary lived in an era when parties were for cook and dancing, radios were sinful, dresses with white collars or long skirts were considered worldly trends, and preachers were not allowed to drive new cars.
Mary's parents were mostly well-to-do, making a living by selling eggs from their 600 hens. 6 crates of eggs would weekly be taken to Winnipeg. Her dad was proper and organized. For FASPA, in the harvest time, he would take trips along to the field in a tall syrup pail and raspberry jam that Mary had made. They had healthy food on the table, no snacks in between. Close to their garden, her dad had planted sweet clover to attract and raise bees, but after Mary and her mom kept getting disturbed by the bees in the garden, her dad tilled up the clover and raised raspberries instead. It was Mary's and Pete's job to pick and sell the berries, mostly to elevator workers they were sold. They also had onions in their garden, which they tied together and hung up to dry. Mary's school ended in June of the year she was 14 years old. As the big sister, Mary felt responsible for her younger siblings. She and Pete often worked and played together a lot. Sometimes they took their younger siblings along when they cleaned hadricks off the field. They wanted to have a clean field, she said. Abram became the trucker and Frank the babysitter. One time when Nita had to be taken to the doctor, Mary went along to hold or babysit her. When her parents went on a trip from Canada to Mexico, 16-year-old Mary took care of her younger siblings at home. Baby Nita stayed at Henry R. Friesen's.
In 1948, Mary's family moved to Mexico. The families immigrating from Canada all lived in one large 10-roomed house, waiting till their own houses were done. One day, when Mary had just cleaned another room in the shared house and cooked supper for the crowd, she saw the Kornelsen family arrive in the yard. She met the two brothers at the hedge outside and invited them in for lunch. Wilmer was too shy, but Henry accepted the invitation and enjoyed a tasty meal of potatoes and pickles. Soon after that, Henry asked Mary to come together more often. One time, they sat in his dad's truck for a date. Sometimes Henry walked to see Mary if Wilmer was using the truck. They'd usually part with a hug, perhaps even a kiss. Mary was advised not to marry Henry, as his heart problems would probably take his life at a young age. She risked it anyway. Henry was proud of his beautiful young lady. After some months, Henry's sister, Greta and Heinrich Clausen, came to Mexico for a visit. They wanted the privilege of attending the wedding before heading back home to Canada. So things began moving fast. Henry and Mary were baptized on October 9, and their wedding date was set for November 20. For the wedding, since Henry had a brown suit anyway, Mary sewed a brown dress. During the week before the wedding, they kept working. He hauled wood and she cleaned. Heinrich and Greta drove them to the wedding. The reception took place at her parents' farm with faspa tables set up outside at the end of the house. When they were first married, they lived with Mary's parents since her mom was ill and needed help. After a year, they moved onto their own 60 acres of land, which they got from their parents. Together, they gathered stones on the field and built a brick wall as a fence around their yard and garden. Henry hauled lumber and Mary sold it. After some years, they were blessed with their firstborn, Elizabeth. Henry's sister Mary took care of the baby, trying to still her hiccups. Sadly, Elizabeth died the next morning.
Since buying more land in Mexico didn't seem possible, people decided to move to British Honduras. After Henry had hauled 3 loads of freight to British Honduras, it was time to take his family. With 3 little boys and one on the way, they boarded the train in Chihuahua to travel to Belize. They flew by military plane from Mexico City to Belize. It was their first plane ride ever. 2 weeks after arriving in the new country, baby Henry was born.
In April of 1964, 5 happy boys and a sister jumped into their Chevy car with their mom and dad. They picked up Joe Friesen and Melvin Reimer and started their journey. Joe and Melvin sat up front, each with a child in their lap. Henry and Mary were going to work in Canada for a summer. Henry's money was empty by the time they got there. In fact, Joe and Melvin had to pay the last gas. Henry went to work at the elevators immediately. After 2 days of working, they went shopping, although by then, Aunt Anna had hosted a grocery shower for them. At the shower, they got a home-baked angel food cake and could start eating right away. 4-year-old Nita kept begging to go home to Belize, so her parents bought a big box of cheap toys and Nita settled down with her dolls.
While in Canada, Mary's mom became very ill in Belize and died soon after. Mary didn't hear it right away. She started to eat little, and when she started losing weight, Henry suggested they go to Heinrich Clausen's for a meal. Mrs. Peter Biedick sympathetically came to visit Mary and brought her a klizak of baked twibak.
A story on feeding her boys in Canada. Chocolate milk will be a nice treat for the boys, said Mary delightfully as she opened the box of cocoa that Henry had brought home. The box was wet in one corner, but it was a good bargain at $1 for 10 pounds. Henry had also picked up three big bags of one-day-old breads at the bakery's back door, and he even got a bag of free donuts with chocolate icing. And it being right after Christmas, he'd found Christmas cakes for $2 instead of the regular 12. He'd also brought milk from their neighbors. Peter Lowens brought his cream to town, but the milk he dumped, so anyone could get as much as they wanted. It provided all the milk and butter that Henry and Mary needed. They also stocked their cellars with ice cream.
Henry's long-distance trucking brought its challenges for Mary. with him being gone from the family so much. Having Henry home for a whole week almost didn't seem right. In Canada, uncles and aunts had to take care of Mary and her family a lot. When there was a flood and Henry wasn't home, Mary's uncle Isaac Bront went to check up on her. He took her along to Morrisseed, from Morrisseed to Steinbachseed. In October 1967, Mary's dad came to retrieve the Kornelsen family back to Belize. It took serious convincing to persuade Henry to leave Canada, leaving behind his family, his siblings, and his job. The border officials thought he was joking when he announced he is moving. They drove down with a blue pickup with a two-wheel trailer. In the home-built trailer was a mattress, on the pickup's back seat, a putty. Mary had sliced a whole bag of bread to travel back to Belize. They ate ketchup sandwiches and the 1.5 gallons of jam from Mrs. Lowen.
In Belize, Henry and Mary were proud to be raising the best tomatoes in the country. Mary stepped up on the partial drum and reached for the highest tomato on the hybrid plant. "That's 40 from this plant," she declared. "That fertilizer trick must be working." Henry had set up his corn harvesting machine close to the garden. As he thrashed corn, the hulls spread across the tomato plants and orange trees. Henry took the tomatoes to Kaya, where a retail store sold them through their small window. The use of fertilizer added to their success, but the birds sat on the orange trees and were tempted by the tomatoes. When they ate half-ripe tomatoes, Mary made tomato gravy served over fresh cooked beans. Mary has told more stories, many of them nearly a century old. Stories on babies born, kids being picky eaters, Benny biting her shoulder as a 2-year-old, Henry getting teeth fixed as a 6-year-old boy, her grandma's confession at her deathbed, fear of drunken men coming home at night, people commenting on her pretty babies and behaved yet active children, vitamin injections for low energy, emptying night potties and storing frozen chicken in the same snow dunes, teaching her children math.
Mary and Henry made a family trip in the summer of 1988 and in 1993. In 2006, they went for a Kornelsen family reunion, which was their last trip to Canada. Mary became a grandmother in 1981 and a great-grandmother in 2004. She was married to Henry Kornelsen for 71 years and 2 months and widowed 3 years and 2 days.
Mary was passionate about giving children the very best care, including nutrition, safety, and education. She was a diligent learner in school and an industrious worker on the farm. She raised grader drivers, store managers, truckers, hand farmers, cooks, teachers, and caregivers. She never drove a car. She wore her deceased aunt's dentures. She was more skilled at weeding than cooking and had more experience with milking than sewing. From the perspective of grandchildren, Grandma was a short woman with a bent back, chopping weeds with her machete or sickle, crawling to wash the floor, sweeping the floor with her bare hands, washing dishes but rarely cooking, serving the table at mealtime, trying to keep patient with little hands stealing noodles she had just made, giving wagon rides, rinsing dirty diapers as if she enjoyed it, working in the garden or doing laundry with Grandpa. She had poor eyesight but keen hearing. She fried eggs for cats and dogs, killed bats and drowned kittens, and had pink lotion for ouchies. She took great interest in our lives, asking about our work, crops, dating, and babies.
Yeah, the mom via flexible. I remember when she was 85, zij had niet veel hobby's, oder hoe moet ik zeggen, andere hobby's. Zij is in haar ganze leven eenmaal een studie voor, oder eenmaal nam weer maar gaan, ze willen niet. Want ze willen een Braille uitlezen. So da wir nicht ihr Hobby einem Stür fahren. Aber wenn sie können van 25 jaar nog wijzen, ohne Knei aanknakken, plaat de hand op de vloer op, dat ging erscheinen. Anybody else?
Yeah, well, I know I had a busy mom, that's for sure. When I 5 ouder was, I was a young veel 5 aan zouden. Dat deed niet lang, dan was ze met Noord-Canada en dan werden we dat am kap gelegd. Dat schijnt niet schwierig. En ik würde nicht gleich sein, eigentlich zu zetten. Zij muss schaffen, dat wir. En wanneer anders dan word ik aan dat Arie weer veel te schaffen. En dan bood ik me aan, vrij, wat daddy thuis weer. En vroeg mijn tractor en trailer, ik voerde aan en zij kon maten. En vroeg mal een trailer met Valsteiner schmieden. En dan kon ik terug een huisje voor. En wilde je allemaal nog cementen eigenlijk zo Steiner weer allemaal te bruggen. Zo, daar is er wel veel over dat, dan is eigenlijk zo best thuis zetten blijven. Zo. Ik immer eher top wat je doen, want zij felt zo, daar moest wat je doen worden. Next word ik aan dat zij bij hem schablet lezen, dan word ik hem aan, zij vangt daarbij aan, ze hield er een beetje bij hem schablet lezen. Dan hoort ik een beetje wat er weer, en dan word ik aan dat zij hadden bezorgd om die tjengen, waar die en dat zij niet arbeidsgezet had voor alle die. Want ze deed weinig thuis en de jongens die hadden niet alle wat te doen. En dan was het laatste antwoord, dan weer ik bozig waard, dan dat ik met mijn chatty mogelijk rijden, dan ging ik tuin reinhaken. Dat kan ik niet aanhoren, want dat is ook weer dat ze een beetje healen moest. Ja, zo ik had een zeer fijne mama, ik kan niks zeggen, dat deed me fijn bij dingen bezorgd, want ik wil veel tijd. En wanneer ik eigenlijk zo had, wat me veel wat te gaan gaan en bedrijven, mijn mama weer op hem. Zij hoort, wanneer ik wat te zeggen had, en me eigenlijk wat niet schijn ging, mama weer rijdt hem hoort. Dat had ik veel gerekend.
Nog meer zo.
Mijn mom wat stemmen deed. Alleen als ze een brief voor en die al een baby had, ik was helemaal van de man. Ik ben niet afgeschreven. Dat met de brief. En baby. Ik heb
Wat weer met de 1944? Ik weet aan je beur, ik wil ook hier weten wat nog je was.
Wordt eerst maar dat boek nou zijn. Ik al vierde wat alle les wordt. Okay, anybody? Daar wil wat zeggen.
Good evening. My name is Isaac Wolf. I guess you can't even mess all of you. Yeah, it was my Aunt Mary. I'm sorry I wasn't here for the funeral. We couldn't make it. We were in the U.S. and getting the tickets changed was not possible, so I only came home this afternoon. Yeah, that's my oldest aunt, my mom's sister, and the Kornelsens siblings here on the front here. They have had our mom for many more years than I have had. My mom passed away when I was 14, so that is now like 42 years ago. So, yeah, lots of these pictures look familiar when without Mary, what she was working. When we were there playing at their place, Aunt Mary was usually in the barn with the cows or the chickens, chasing the calves into the barn with a little whip. I remember one time Uncle Henry bought a couple of calves from his friend, and those calves were only skin and bones with a big belly. It didn't take very long, and those calves were shiny and healthy and looked like a complete different shape. And what she fed them was a lot of raw eggs. So raw eggs was one of her remedies. So yeah, no, I guess it'll feel empty not having your mom here. And it's a couple of weeks ago when I was there. She wasn't bad, but she was very talkative. And I guess I was looking too serious, but suddenly she pointed her finger at me, and I said, I want you to be so friendly faced as that and that person had been. So we had fun there. And she asked me there too, say, how old do you want Uncle Abe to get? Uncle Abe, that's my dad. How old do you want him to get? Well, I said, Aunt Mary, that's a very interesting question. I would not know how to answer that. As my dad is 92 years now, so going to 90. In June, he'll be 93. Yeah, and one thing, we were always neighbors as long as they lived on the farm. And we could share a lot of memories there of that place there. So times change. There's one thing we cannot do. We cannot make time and we cannot stop time. Time will go. God has set it that way. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk to my dearest nieces and nephews. I always have you in my heart. I love you very much. And your mom was in my heart always. And Mary was the oldest of 15 children. So she learned to work hard from young age. Later, when she got married, she was a farmer, milking the cows, and she brought the milk to my parents' barn for the milkman to take along every morning. Often she was at our place for the night, and she left the children there sleeping, and she stayed working at home till lunchtime or after lunchtime, and she was confident we would take care of her children. And we know she was very strict that they should take good care of, we should take good care. So we tried our best to care for John and George and David. Not the only one, not the other ones. That was Mexico. Yeah, this is just Mexico here. And she also made a garden. So she managed everything. But we often have to stay in the house and take care of the children. And when we were tired of being there in the whole house with the children, we bring them to sleep, and then we can go home. When the children sleep, then we can go home. And and then she said, "You shall not make the children sleep, because then they will not sleep when I want to sleep." Because sleeping was very, very important for her. She needed a nap every day. Even before she was married, she'd take a nap. And hard working, but a nap was very important for her. Yeah, and often we went there for the night. And we take, I don't know how we measure that. Sometimes Mom said we should go over for her to her for the night, and sometimes she came to our place. So we girls, we sisters, had very good experience of taking care of children. When I got married, I said, I'm ready to have my own children. I have all the experience already. I don't need more. And the children, they always behave good. I don't know if they ever behave badly. They were very soft and gentle, and like their dad. I don't know, no fighting, and Jacob was a small boy. Jacob played with the children. There was no problem. Do you remember you ever fight with the children? There was no problem with the children. Just give them food, and when the clothing was too old and ragged, my sister had to sew fresh pants and shirts from the feed bags that we had, and then they had nice dresses again. And later I helped the boys to learn their verses. I had big interest in teaching children, and so I got that chance too. But I didn't have so much experience that I ever got a teacher. And that hard life that she has, and that didn't left much time for her to go to church and other fellowships. She didn't go to Nephilim. She didn't hardly ever go to church. She was just busy with her family at home, and sometimes one boy was sick, and the other times I think she always had to put something on your heads. That's why you couldn't go. She always had to care for her children. And but that eventually changed when the children get bigger and got married, and she became more friendly person, more happy when we came there, and more lovely. So then it was not so hard for her anymore. She changed in her her mind. I mean, there are many changes to the better she got. And the biggest change came now last month when she was sick, that she really experienced God's grace, how big God's grace is for her. And that's overall, I mean, that's the biggest experience I had with her. And I will miss you, Mary. I miss it. I cannot visit her the last 3 weeks, 9 months, because we became sick, I guess, the same day, me and Mary. And I don't know if you could sing the song now, the verse, Amazing Grace. Can we sing it?
Can we sing that song, Amazing Grace?
Ja, der Yoga-Pastor von Oklahoma. Er ist von Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Girafes.
It's a good one, so I need to use to ask.
Mijn mama, die wil bevrijd, wil onkel Jacob geboren worden.
I grew up thinking that my grandma was a quiet person. But then when I got older, not very old, maybe 10 or 12, I realized that if I went outside and sat beside her as she was weeding around the house, that she had a lot to say. And I got to know her that way, and I realized one-to-one, then she had a lot to say, but in a crowd, she'd be a little more quiet. And then as I got even more older and I could drive, I would take meals to their house that my mom made at home, so mom could stay home with the rest of the kids. And sometimes she needed to be combed, and I was scared because I had never combed an older person before. But I realized, I could just ask her, and she told me, and she was not very picky how her hair looked. Any style was good. It didn't matter if it was straight to the back or if there's a part in the middle or the side, it was okay. Every time I combed her, she would ask if I could do 100 strokes because someone told her way back it was healthy, and she wanted to be healthy. So, yeah. I've never done it on myself. I only did it for her, though. And then now, just a couple years ago, I was working at the clinic, and she was there for a few nights. And one of the nights I was going to stay there with her, and she had very restless legs. And she asked me if I could massage them for her, which I had done more often, but I guess I was not sure what to use because at home I had the lotion and it wasn't there and whatever. She said, well, I could use Wonder Oil. And I must have been surprised, and she thought that was so funny that I didn't know that you could massage her legs with Wonder Oil. And a lot of other rough things happened that night, but that's something that stuck with her. And now whenever I went to visit her after that, she would mention that. And this last time I visited her, I was almost ready to leave. And then she remembered, and and she was just holding my hand and laughing that I hadn't known about that. And it was special. I was taking care of her, and that was kind of how she remembered me. So yeah, those were some of the special memories I've had of Grandma.
I am granddaughter Michelle. We are living on the land that used to belong to grandparents, and that's how I could explain to Grandma where we live. And my cousin lives close by, and one day Grandma asked if I would go to her house often. if I was going there often, and they said, no, I didn't. I had 2 young children to take with me, and oh, hi, going to Masqua. That's what she'd done. She put her kids in a wheelbarrow, and then she'd gone to her mom's house.
Yeah, then that dirt road there from Beentbeideke going up to Manueldiks, that was just a dirt road with diepe glazen. En dan brachten we dem kat voor door wat er nu bij Universal even waar is, dat loont, en brachten we dan eten. Zij moesten hem eten brengen, en dat is er ook met een mes qua. Weer de zonne diepe glazen, en dan kon ze in chat bouncen, en dan moest ik van thuis met voor ver op een mes qua, omdat ze beter bouncen kan. En via we daar eten gaan, door dat Universal Harbor, dat is via, vielleicht een beetje van een meal. So we named that field after her. So it's called Mary Field, that whole area now. If you look it up if you Google it, you will find it, I think.
Ja, grandma has eerder round en aan huis ram gekropen met een korte machete en al een gras het gehakt, wanneer pag hem stech weer, die wordt ook opgechopt. Die hadden niet nodig om aan huis te zijn. En wanneer jaas komen, dat huis weer maar larig. So ze moesten er aan huis ram gaan te maar zeker, maar ze weer zo klein en ze kroopte allemaal. De strampelde just about even haar ver ze er nog maar zouden. Ik weet dat grandma moet evers opgerecht zijn. Ik en mijn grandpa, we wilden manchmal oude schroeflintbullets, de bullets genomen en aan de shells naar hem vier en gesmeed van de garbage verbrennen deden. En daar was dat luid. Ik was niet ever aan je worden grandma's opgerecht worden, want dat je knalde bitte. En op haar 60-jarige anniversary, wedding anniversary, dat is gelijk het eerste mal waar ik me evers aan mijn grandma zijn lachen. Dem dag lag ze zeer en after that heb ik maar gemerkt dat ze lacht had. En ik dacht maar ze kunnen ook really geschichten vertalen, maar ik zal ze zo hier de one-on-one vizier haar zaten, dan konden nog zeer veel geschichten vertalen. En terwijl ik er niet heel veel vertalen is, because wanneer we voor de setting lezen bij grandpa's, dan grandma ging allemaal tieren slopen, ze weer niemands raam. But that's still a precious memory, dat ik haar nog leert met haar vertalen. En als ze zich bevrieden, mijn grandma zei allemaal dat grandpa was een grote mens en hij zei allemaal nou hij weinig, because zijn haar moest er zijn en hij nog beter hij kan worden op zijn show weer. So een zijn show dan weer een mens niet groot. Aber even though ze moesten daar alle met aanleggen. So ja, en grandma gelijk allemaal handshakes te geven, dat was really special. En ik denk, de dancers je best hebben inge geloof dat we niet weer rekenen, vriendschap maken. Dat is een nieuw woord.
Hand-me-downs, gelijk weer tjaan het alle modus nu.
Yeah, some remarkable things that came to my mind about Grandma was she had a gift that I always needed through my life, and I never got it. I think she kept all of it. That was a way to deal with the glipspuggen. It was so good to have somebody around like Grandma that would take care of those, just to take them with her bare hands and go out with a machete, chop them in half, throw them under the avocado tree. So we didn't play under there. And another thing that I was proud of from my mid-school years, I could always say I was taller than Grandma. And yeah, she was very concerned about our children, that they would get good nourishment. Raw eggs was something that she always suggested I should put that in the bottle for them. We had one child that she was always saying that was needed more, I should take better care. She was so worried. She said nowadays mothers don't know anymore how to take care of their babies.
Ik en mijn mam deden, ik de 18e, de 18e jaar bezeken. En dan, wat ik dus wil zeggen, wat mij zo ook special voorkwam van de grootmam. Zij zei niet genomen, maar zij zei, die man, wat dat land rent, wat land rent, dat is de stuurmanager zijn jong. En die werd 27 altijd, die zich bevrijd dat het eerste baby had. En dan werd dat zo krank geworden. Dat had bloos zeer jammer. En zo zei ik keert zich voor de grootjingen en de grootjingen. En ik kan me niet zo veel dingen klaar bezanen van Tianentijd van Tante Marie, maar later jaren ervoor bezeken, dat ging schijn. Het zijn nog bij dat huis woonde, die hem stuur. En daar werd ik de hand kwam, zij zat op de vloer bij de fridge, ik had zich daar ettertje genomen, auto. So ik zat wie bis pizza op de vloer doen. En heb ze verteld. En dat ze graag reden van waar baby's iets hebben moest. Dat mij niet duidelijk weer onder niet. We fokken weer niet wist, waarom met baby's aangewonnen moesten. Dat hield zich zo van zij graag wist. En dat weer quite larig wat zij shared, dat enthoudt ook wat. En dat wat Isaac eerst zei, dat zij laatst hadden aangevraagd, hoe oud wel die had dat je papa nog worden zal. Dan met Isaac zei dat, over Tante Marie, dat is een interessante vrouw, en dan laag ze. En dat is nog was de ene meiner trek. Maar ja, dat ging schijn. Zij kan dansen en zij wil vertalen. Ja.
Okay, I will just add a little bit more to my stories as things came to my mind. My dad, he bought Mom a mop, a floor mop, maybe 20 years ago, or I don't know, 25 years ago. But since my mom never used it because she has never ever mopped the floor with a mop, she only did it on hands and knees. She said otherwise the floor, the corners, everything wouldn't get clean. And so my dad took the mop and used it for mopping his truck so he could reach to the top. So that was what the mop was good for now. And for many years, she did not like a tape recorder or tape player. If we would have it on, she didn't like noise in the house. So she would take the broom, and she didn't know much about the switches, but she would slap the broom on there so it would turn off. And now, in the last, I think she's been at Golden Age, now she always asks on Sunday morning, where is that tape player? I want to listen to the message. Like, I couldn't believe it, how she had changed around. Like, now she was asking for it. And before, it was an evil thing. And sometimes when she ran after the calves, as we heard before, one time I remember she had the calf on a rope, and the calf was excited to run to the barn, across the yard to the barn. And she fell on her stomach, and she held onto the rope, and she got a ride on her stomach for quite a ways till she got to the barn, but she held onto the rope. She was in charge. And combing her hair, when I combed her hair, this is maybe 5-10 years ago, I would pull them back and put the clips in, and she says, no, 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 don't do that. You have to push them up a bit so they're loose. They don't have, don't tighten them too much. So dan moest ik daar een beetje verder schuiven, dat hij niet te zeer tight weer, dat zal smak laten. Zij weer maar zeer stalt. Veel mensen geloven dat gleich nee, maar mijn mam weer zeer stalt. Ze hebben het niet helemaal bewezen, maar dat wir en erbanen. En wie geduld ons allemaal voor die glepspaggen. En we hadden eenmaal mama aan de zijde, dat waren glepspaggen aan de sloepstoof, en dan moest zij komen en die griepen. Met de platte bare hand. Zij kwam allemaal voort, zij wist dat mijn business. En wanneer dan Scorpion weer aan zich, eenmaal weer op een been, wie slepen dich aan been, dan weer er een en zij komt allemaal met de scheier op, and she cuts it in half, whoever they that trafen it. She would just cut it in half, and this time she just cut off the tail, like right by the tail end. And then 3 months later, ran one Scorpion around with no tail. I guess it didn't die. I will just read a quick poem yet. Miss me, but let me go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that once we shared. Miss me, let me go, for this is a journey we must all take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know. Bury your sorrows in doing good deeds. Laugh at all the things we used to do. Miss me, but let me go.
At this time, I'd like to thank my aunts and mom for their efforts in bringing Grandma to this age, especially Aunt Betty, who found a remedy again and again to help Grandma pull through, even when doctors gave up. True, it is God who determines the age of man and decides the day of their death, but He gives us the ability and responsibility to take care of our bodies. He is pleased when children honor their elderly parents and give them their best care. Grandma's children have given me an example on caring for elderly parents. So many sacrifices they've made and their families with them. I truly believe God will richly bless each deed they did for Grandma and the ways they helped her find purpose in her last season on earth. I have greatly treasured the wisdom I've gleaned from Grandma, and I will miss her enthusiastic interest in our children and work.
Den dag hvor Uncle Jacob ytterp had, dan weer ik dan met een tien wacht. Ik had aan mij al daarboven aan somebody else. Dan begint Uncle Peter op een wagen en dan zegt hij wat is tien verwaan en dan zei ik nee, dat had mama lang terug gedaan. En mama heeft zeer veel groot tien mijn wachtje gevierd en krijg die groot jongens af van daar mama hem grof gevierd dracht.
Zolang als mij denk is toen Marie aan mijn oude tante geweest. En ik had ook wat van je zijn, ze goed care deed voor de kinderen. We hadden een dag een deel gehaast en we hadden heel snel bij ons. En ik leef Betty weer voor 5 jaar. En meest met haar mama lekker groot. En we speelden buiten op haven, en eenmaal kwam toen Marie met een beetje maaikruid. Dan waren we alle wat nu verging. We dachten dat we een grote mjaal. En dan zal die Betty een beetje maak. En die schaamt zich voor zijn grootheid dingen een beetje maak te nemen. Dus ik kleef uit van haar mama. En de mama ging aan. Rammer de vatten en rammer de aken. En schließlich de mama die weer meid. En je ganz bedreigt met de beetje terug uit en de kinderen speelden weer.
Hans Knels wil iemand 3 jaar in Canada en 2 grote dingen wat dan passiert is niet meer opgenaamd worden. Hans wer weet verhaan in Toronto, waar hij zijn stroke had en hem hospital aankwam. Weet af van alle vriendschappen, vrienden, family. And that was a big thing there, right? And the next thing was on, was this very preemie baby was in the hospital, and did you get maybe in the incubator or what? And then that was the time the flood came, and it was not mentioned. Then they had to bring this little baby to Steinbeck from Morris to Steinbeck in the hospital, and their mom to my auntie. So it was a very big thing. In Rosenort, everything runs underwater. So this little baby had to flee. Yeah. And I think that the children kind of had other experience than I, because it was a little bit before their time, it seems, but you always talk how hard your mother worked. And I worked there a lot when she was in bed. She was a lot in bed. She was a lot sick. I don't know what, maybe the first, maybe more the first 10 or 15 years in Belize. Later, she was more healthy, but yeah, I have a lot of work there, and I had a lot of babysitting children, and so that was quite a different story, as you all tell us. So if a person lives so long, there are different stages, you know. So that was not mentioned either, that she was a lot in bed and a lot sick. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Ja, mij interesseert gorenmaken en haar interesseert ook gorenmaken. So we hebben manchmal van zijn dingen vertaald. En ik denk wat ik behouden heb als handshakes, die duren lang. So moesten manchmal best decide dat nu hadden fertig en dan zijn we het gleich teruglaten. En bij een gorenmaken had ik nog een detail wat ik behouden heb, als ze had allemaal kleine plastic topjes en een halfje snijden en dan die even de kleine stieren even doen om die protecten, geloof ik. Ik wil nog schouwverrood van haar kunt gebruiken om goren maken.
Ja, ik zie George, her brother. Ja, ik geloof dat ze goren maken, dat weet iedereen wat met Chan. En einer weer dat ze kruipverleng de ree met van de tomatoes houden. Wat veel mensen interessant wordt, dat ze naar goede kruipen dat ze niet ramgaan zoveel als andere mensen willen. Anyway, einer wat me nog denkt, dat John kleiner jong weer en ik vier dan met een woordje. En dan toen woordje steed, wanneer het kort wengde, dan stelpen de lei ham. En hij stelt het woordje ham en John dacht op jeden op een bloed luid. En dan kwam hij uit en zei dat ik ga John niemals waren vreed onderscheren. En dat is nu al 70 jaar terug, nu weet ik niet meer wie dat wordt rekenen. Anyway, zij hadden een klare mening manchmal, zij zeiden dat dan ook. Maar dat zij weer nog jong, dat weer het eerste kind wat ze hadden, dat is ook very important was voor haar. So. Ja, en ik weet eenmaal, wil ik wat 15 weer, dan kwam ik daar naar ernten. En zeiden, zij moest alleen korn aanzaken. Ze hadden een korn losleggen op en de schaden. Ik heb een half eenmaal korn aanzaken. Ik weet niet hoeveel zaken het was. Vielleicht 10, ze willen voor meer vieren of something. En mij kwam dat euch ver, dat zij, wat zij hadden, de weg van wat zij en wat doen. Ik lees zij weer een beetje van de soort, zij just wat we namen op Engels, bite the bullet, you know, zij weer niet mogelijk doorheen. Ze zeiden alle honderd, maar ze deed het mezelf staan. Dat denkt me van haar, dat ze soort weer. En wat mij interessant is van dat zij heeft, mij kan zoveel, ze heeft geen Alzheimer-krankheid gehad, wat zij mooi is om te zien dat veel mensen. Weinig mensen worden oud ohne Alzheimer, die niet Alzheimer-krankheid. So, Veel zeg je hit haar aan, kunnen ze klaar denken bij te laat. Dankeschön.
Ja, zij eet nicht junk food. Geen kook. Never je zijn ans herder schmaken. So I guess that's gesund. Ja, Uncle George, dat wir bij een special wegen dem Doten, wat er geboren weer. Onkel Diet is ook van 20 November en ik geloof die wordt op eerste wedding anniversary geboren. En ik krijg ze. Ja, eerste wedding anniversary. Ja, één zes we nog. Anybody else before we wrap up?
Ja, om Gordon aan te slapen.
Ja, Schlitt wie met dit. Het schijnt dat ik niet kan nog sehr heiter Kaffee aanbieden. Wat ze schijnt schmecken, maar we hadden hem halt niet recht gemaakt. So dan gleich wil ik bloß allem sehr bedanken für kommen en dan sei je dismissed.